Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Tobin's April 2025 webinar on AI for business. We're doing something a little different this time. I'm going to be on camera, try and be with you all a little more. So, um, you can see me and I can't see you, but I'm not a TV. I'm here live and in person and anxious to talk to you about AI today and take your questions and do a demo and kind of cover this fast moving exciting topic. I'm going to give you a background on some of the AI stuff. I like to give a little bit of a primer. How do we get where we are today? It's one way I kind of learn about some of these technologies, kind of understanding the evolution of them. We're going to talk about the risks. We're going to talk about the opportunities, and certainly any Q&A along the way that you want to drop in the chat, feel free. We also have Amanda with us today, and Amanda will be assisting and jumping in where she needs to. So let's jump in. So first of all the pictures I generated, with the exception of the picture of myself just there, were all generated using AI. I'm not a graphic designer. About the most expansive graphics program I have or use regularly is Microsoft Paint. I could not do something like this without a lot of training and stuff, but I was able to create it in about 30 seconds with AI. But what is the nature of intelligence? This is what gets kind of goofy about this, and this kind of me, I get kind of fun about this. I like stuff about the brain and neuroscience and kind of what makes us tick. And scientists, they're learning a lot about the human brain, but there's still a lot they don't know. And fundamentally, there's a lot of stuff they really have no idea. Really, I mean, they got some theories about how we work and how our brains work, but there's a lot of stuff they really don't know yet. And what's weird is AI is kind of the same thing. Like there's a lot of stuff that they know about AI, but truthfully, they don't know how some of it works, why it produces the results the way it does in some cases. So it's kind of a fascinating study since it's all based around us and intelligence and language. So hopefully you'll find it as interesting as I do and also useful. I don't know what you guys are doing around AI, and anything in business or what you're hearing people do or what you're seeing people do or what you've done yourself, but it's all over in the headlines, right? There's a lot of reasons for this. It's a pretty impressive technology, as you're going to find out, but it's kind of calling into question what it means to be a human being and what it means to be a human being in the modern era, and what makes us smart and special and what tools we use. And it just keeps getting better and better, the AI. It keeps improving, it keeps expanding, it keeps getting more capable, and it's changing so fast, it's hard to imagine. In fact, the AI researchers, if you talk to some of them today and you ask them the current state of AI, where are we? They would have said, where we are now is where I thought we would be in 10 years, meaning we're way ahead of where the experts even thought we might be around how fast AI is moving. So we'll find out what it does, but it's pretty impressive. It also could be a lot of hype. There's a lot of people that don't put a lot of stock in AI or think it's, magic or a parlor trick or, a Google search basically on steroids. And so, you can decide. But Gartner is a company, a big consulting company that does a lot of consulting in the corporate world. They do a lot of consulting on technology, and they have something called the Gartner hype cycle. And it's a curve that looks like this, and it basically talks about AI, or I'm sorry, about technology. And if you look at the bottom here, this kind of summarizes, you get the technology trigger, something starts, you get these peak of inflated expectations, trough of disillusionment, the slope of enlightenment, and finally a plateau of productivity. And honestly, I don't know where we are with AI on this because it is so expansive and covers so many areas. I mean, R&D is still going crazy. You just heard, maybe you heard there might be investing $500 million between Oracle and OpenAI in the US in AI research and building uh, data centers and stuff for the AI computer. So I don't know where it's at, but I have a feeling this graph is just going to be the same graph with the new technology, but every probably 8 to 12 weeks, you're going to see a new change, a new iteration, and it's just going to be a level up on the whole technology. It's moving fast. little bit of a history. I'm not going to go read all this word for word, but it's kind of fascinating. We've been working on this for 75 years. 75 years in terms of science. The science fiction authors and the creative people from hundreds or thousands of years ago who talked about robots or machines made of, people made of mud or clay that could go out and do things, act on our behalf and act almost human-like, has been around for a long time. Now it's getting real. So it started in the 50s with Alan Turing, the British mathematician. If you saw the movie The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, he was part of the group that led how to break and crack the Enigma code that helped us win the war in World War II. And it was kind of just the beginnings of all that. But then it started to get more into science. In 1956, they actually coined the term artificial intelligence. Programs and computers started becoming more sophisticated in the 60s and 70s and 80s. You started hearing about expert systems. If you follow technology like I've been doing for the last 40 years, you read about these things. And yeah, I remember when expert systems were all the rage in the 80s. And that was a new form of artificial intelligence. We have machine learning and now AI, and it just keeps getting more and more impressive. And you're going to see some examples of it as we go forward here, and where we go for the next few decades, possibly. So it's fascinating. If you like to read about the history of this kind of stuff, it's pretty cool. Full of a lot of heroes and a lot of uh, interesting stories. So what is machine learning? It's a subset of AI. AI is artificial intelligence, and there's a lot of different things of intelligence, a lot of different ways people think or things they think about, and we start to classify machines in the same way in terms of its capabilities. So machine learning is one of the early types of artificial intelligence type things that we had. And that came simple as like Amazon recommendation engine or spam filters. They'll just look at lots and lots of data and try and come up with what are people buying in Amazon, so that when you join and you pick for something, you select something in Amazon to buy, uh, you'll see what the other things it recommends for you and all of that. So it's pretty useful, and it's way more powerful than this. It's a real simple example of how it's used, but it's there. It just keeps getting more and more powerful, analyzing lots of data. You have deep learning artificial intelligence. This is where it analyzes, not just look at the data, but looks at it a different way. It looks at it as kind of like more like our brain might look at it in a real loose analogy. It looks at it from a neural perspective, trying to find patterns in the data, trying to find things that we didn't necessarily see ourselves as human beings by loading it up in Excel, but maybe it could learn by looking at the gobs and gobs of data and come up with some things and help us do some things. And you can think like Google Photos. If you ever use Google Photos and you can just say, show me a picture, show me an album of all my cats, or you can do that in Apple, iPhone, same thing. Show me a picture of all my kids or all the pictures from, my trip to wherever. Self-driving cars, it's very complex stuff to be able to navigate the roads and the snow and the weather and the people and the dogs and the cars and all that kind of stuff. And then make decisions about that driving down the road and do it like well. So that stuff keeps getting better and better, this deep learning. And it's a subset of AI. And this is kind of there will continue to be work done in this area that expands the whole field. And this is really pretty cool for a lot of people, but it's not necessarily what's really starting to jazz people. The natural language processing that started some years ago, that's where the AI starts to talk. And we can talk to it. We don't have to use special coding languages now. We can just use the language we learned. What do we learn? English, Spanish, whatever we use. We learn a language. We have syntax in that language. There's rules in that language. We learn how to speak that, and then we can use that to speak and communicate with other people. And we can start to do it with our smart devices to tell it to set alarms and to turn on lights and to, ask who played who in a movie. But it's still pretty impressive. I mean, it's not perfect. It's getting better, but you can actually have a conversation. So you want to think about these smart speakers or digital assistants or even chatbots. A lot of the chatbots you use right now, it's not a human being. It starts off with a computer, and you can usually tell that. It used to be, when they first started using chatbots, It was really obvious. Now it's getting pretty good, depending on what technology they're using. So it's getting very impressive. And I'm not talking about this not just as I'm building up to what the overall AI is, but these are all things you could be looking at, how do you use these things in your business? Because fundamentally, we're going to be talking about AI in business. So as we're going through these things, how might some of these things help you? Another area of artificial intelligence is called narrow artificial intelligence. It's a specific kind of intelligence just designed to do a very specific task, like autocorrect, which sometimes has hilarious results, but it oftentimes finds the next word, and not just spelling the word correctly, but a lot of times finding the next word grammatically and by where you were going with what you were about to say. Like it understood the context of what the next word was. Or the social media algorithms. It's maybe awful for civilization about some of these things, but they do work. If you're interested in fishing and you go on the internet and start searching for fishing, every one of your feeds is going to start showing up with fishing feeds and fishing lures and places to go fishing and all that kind of stuff. So it works and it works really well. And your guys are using this all the time. So you're using AI every day, all day long already. But now we're kind of getting to the juicy stuff here, right? We got this generative artificial intelligence. This is different. This became a bit of a game changer and kind of sparked a lot of renewed interest in AI in the last 8 to 10 years, mainly last 8 years or so since they discovered some new technology that made some of the stuff possible. But the generative AI models, this is something new. This is like you're talking to it in language, you're writing or you're chatting. You can use a voice to talk to some of these artificial intelligence devices, or you can type and chat with them, and I'll do a demo of that. But it can do things that, it's not just going to tell you who played who in a movie. You can say, create a new script of this movie, create a cover letter, create a letter to a ticked off client, summarize this. It starts doing creative endeavors. It starts doing like knowledge-based things. This is new. They've been working on this for a while and they've had it in different ways, but the way it's working now is just a game changer for a lot of people. And you're going to find out, if you're not already using it, where it's going to be showing up very quickly in your office. So ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, DALL-E, there's a lot of these artificial intelligence ones. So I'm going to give a demo of that shortly. But this is where it gets kind of weird because we start to get to some of the existential threat that we're going to talk about, because this is where you're going to see jobs potentially being lost to the computers. This was really cool. This is super geeky. I don't really understand this exactly, and this is free. This is how it works. This little flowchart is what they created in 2017, a research paper at Google. This is free. You can go out on the web and find this paper called Attention is All You Need, like the Beatles song, Love is All You Need. And this was a game changer for AI. This added context to what was being asked. Context is really important in what we do in life. Otherwise, we would not be able to communicate very well if we didn't really understand context of what people are talking about. The reason I say twinkle, twinkle, little, and the next word in your head is star and not banana is because you have a context of the song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and you know what the next lyrics are probably. Or this example, the cat sat on the mat. Cat and sat are more important because it's a cat is related to the sat as a noun a verb, right? Versus the cat and the mat. I mean, it depends, right? Depends what you're trying to talk about. But this is where it gets goofy. This is where the computers are starting to figure out and kind of get like, what are we talking about here? Context matters, right? What is this? Am I pointing up? Is it a gun? Pew pew. Is it we're number one? Is it a fingers? Is it index finger? what is being communicated in this picture? Context matters. It's critical to how we live our lives, and it's why it's a game changer for artificial intelligence. The context matters that uh, uh, paper that was written, plus the existing technology they've been working on for over 70 years, took what is called the existence of what are called large language models, which is a way of taking all the knowledge we have and coding it and then handing it over to be to the AI to then be used for questions, for work, for summarization, for anything you want. And you're going to see that here shortly. Let's see if we have a survey here. Let's see. Polls. Here we go. Let's see here. So if you guys took some time out of your day today to come to this webinar, and I certainly appreciate it. What areas of your business do you think could be impacted by AI? Go ahead and complete the survey. Yep, it's a lot of marketing, sales, customer service is somewhat even. I mean, marketing is kind of a clear leader, but people are interested in using AI all over their business. It's pretty clear. Here's the results. So you guys are very interested in using this for everything you have. So let's see how you might do some of that. So we're building on all this stuff, right? We've been working on this for over 75 years. And this is kind of the holy grail, so to speak, in intelligence. It's the holy grail. Maybe it's the scariest thing in artificial intelligence. I don't know. But depending on this is the general artificial intelligence. This is where the AI isn't dedicated to just doing spell check. It's not just dedicated to doing social media algorithms. It'll be and do, and it'll be anything you want and act any way you want it to act in the written language. And this is we pretty cool, right? Because this is kind of like what we are. We're kind of general natural intelligence beings, right? And we get paid and we get hired and we do things to run our lives and we use technology and we use robots and we use other things and this is going to be something that is just going to become part of our life and how bad or sad it gets, who knows? But this is what people really want is this, and this is what is I think it's pretty close when you look at some of these things like where Copilot and ChatGPT and others are going. It's very close in some ways too, and I say it's close in the way it acts, and it's far apart in terms of some of its results. But your mileage may vary, and again, this is changing so fast. But this is what people would really want, right? If you could get an army of AIs to do work, they don't call in sick, they don't complain, they do their stuff. This is the really scary part, the super intelligent artificial intelligence, right? This is the movies. This is the dystopian future. I don't know what's going to happen. If these AIs achieve some level of, you know, super intelligent artificial intelligence where it's sort of acting and behaving on its own, um, I don't know what it's going to do. Could destroy us. It could make us its slaves. It could just be our tool and just work with us like in Wall-E. I don't know, but on Wall-E, I guess in the end they were trying to do some things with the humans there. So the question is, what is going to happen with all this? And this is the scary part. This is when you see that scientists are signing papers about warning about the use of AI and things like that. This is kind of the scary part where the robot really holds us in its hand. And There's other parts that make this kind of scary. Like this is moving fast. If you haven't Googled Boston Dynamics robots and seen some of these videos, it's amazing. They're not smart yet, but they can move crazy. They're developing uh, artificial limbs. Elon Musk has his Neuralink, brain digital interface. And they're working across all different things. They're working on um, robots for sex bots. That's what these real dolls are, right? You may think it's gross and whatever, but I'm trying to get to the point of they're working on things that are going to come all together into whatever our future is going to be. The robotics for the movement, the Neuralink for controlling, the appearance from the real dolls, things like that are going to maybe be what our future is going to be like. It just keeps growing and expanding and improving. So where it's going to go, don't know. This is another area that's pretty hot. Quantum computing. Maybe you saw something on this on 60 Minutes recently. They were talking about quantum computers. This is a totally brand new type of computer that uses quantum physics that I could barely begin to explain to you. Not because you don't understand it, but because I don't understand it. I understand it just in a little bit to be explained it the way I do. Super complex physics. And it really can't do very much right now. Can do very little. These quantum computers, there's a lot of hype. You hear a lot about things, where they can do this and do that, but you got to really read between the lines and see what it's really doing. But that's now. Our early computers were the same way, right? Very few bits, very few resources, but they got smarter and better over time, and the quantum computing is going to be the same thing. The thing is, quantum computers work differently than today's computers. They can handle vast amounts of data far faster than today's modern computers and do it in different ways than today's modern computers can do. And one of the things it really excels at is training AI models. So you can see how these technologies are kind of rising together and eventually will merge. The experts are predicting significant advances by 2040. That's only 15 years away. Get that? 2040 is only 15 years away. There's also a book called The Singularity, written by Ray Kurzweil, who calls himself what is he, a technologist or a futurist, I think is what he calls himself. I don't know how you get a job by that, but you can just say that. He is a computer scientist. He wrote a book called The Singularity, and that's this concept of when all these technologies sort of come together and create this super intelligence that surpasses human intelligence. Now, I don't know what it's going to do if that happens. It could be great. Could solve some of our huge problems, cancer, global warming, political divides. I don't know. It might be able to do some things like that, but it might also destroy us. I have no idea, right? So we don't know. And a lot of it probably depends on what we do with it over the next 15 years, not what it's going to do with itself. So this is predicting the singularity by 2045. The quantum computers, they're going to really amp up the training of these things, is going to happen around 2040s. So I don't know, maybe in the next 15 years, is this when the singularity happens? We'll find out. Now, the question is, if it's a singularity, if it's as big or bad as it's possible in the book, but the question is, how good or bad does it have to be to displace us? To displace some of the jobs we do, or to allow us to do a different quality of life? In Wall-E, they were all, living large and happy and supposedly, up in space. They wouldn't have to do anything. The robots were taking care of them. So I don't know where that's all going, but we'll find out. This you're going to hear a lot about if you aren't already hearing about this. This is the next kind of powerful yet scary part of AI, which is agency. Agentic computing. This is where you're letting the AI go do its own thing. You hook it into the devices, you give it controls, you hook it into the machines, you let it run you really let it run the manufacturing devices, you let it run other things. It figures out what the best way to do it is, and then does it for you. And this exists now. You can use AI and agentic computing to do tasks, not just to, make silly jokes or poetry or whatever, but you can have it do real work. And this, again, this is great in the sense that this could be really useful. And it's scary in the sense that right now, wait, I'm the agent. In the future, when you can just ask Microsoft to fix your computer problem, that's coming. What I'll be doing at that time for a job, I don't know. It's coming. It's here. It's getting stronger. Again, created this picture with AI. Took about 60 seconds. So I don't know where we go. This is kind of a little tongue in cheek if you're a 2001 Space Odyssey fan. But the hell, maybe in 24 years we'll be yelling at Copilot to open the pod bay doors for us. I don't know what's going to happen there. But in the meantime, it's already here. It's baked into everything, like all the fruit in a fruit cake. Sometimes it's unwanted because it's everywhere. It takes up screen real estate. It's apps updates every week now with new AI features. It's kind of annoying, but anyway, it's here. Let's start looking at it and talk about how we can use it. So, first of all, these are just some general considerations because these are considerations for you, not just society. This is a big one. If you're going to use AI, in your office, what are you going to do about privacy and intellectual property? Those are real things we face in a business. There's going to be job displacement. It's just going to happen. And what that means, I don't know. That might mean how you hire. It might mean the type of people you look for. You have to watch out for bias and fairness. People are using these AIs and getting results, and the results have bias, like humans do. So you have to really watch for that in the what your results are. Security, AI is getting crazy with security right now. They're just beginning to figure out, all the different ways they can use AI to attack people. We're going to talk a lot more about that. This idea of transparency. How is AI actually making these decisions? We don't really know. They don't publish that. Who's responsible for accuracy in AI outcomes? Is our legal system ready? If you use AI to produce a result and now you have a lawsuit and you're blaming the AI, blaming Microsoft or blaming ChatGPT, we're going to find out. There's other stuff here, social impact, government, existential. I think you've got my feelings on where this might go, but we'll find out. We talked a little bit about security. This is really important. And this is why security is so important in your business and why you got to be moving on it, because AI has just amped up the level of attacks. There's something that happens when a security bug is found. They create what's called an advisory, and they'll say, Microsoft Windows versions 10 through 11 have a bug in the program that displays the calculator. And when the calculator comes up, it can, if a malicious actor invokes that, they can somehow take over the computer, right? So these definitions of these advisories come out. Not what the bug was in the code, but just an explanation that there was a bug. They ran it against ChatGPT 4, and it got almost all the vulnerabilities. It created the attacks in just a few minutes. I forgot what the number was. It was like 8 out of 10 or 18 out of 20 or something like that it created attacks in minutes. So even some of the hackers are probably going to lose their job to the AI people. The attacks are getting more sophisticated. Deep fakes is a real problem. We already have problems with texts and emails and people trying to figure out what's real or not there. they're going to be able to just, take my voice from this video and create a bot and call you up and tell you to install some software on your computer. So Tobin's actually coming out with a verification system for our clients so we can verify they're human beings and they can verify we are who we are. So it's getting super sophisticated very quick. If you're not amping up your security and watching specifically your security around AI, you may run into some problems. Because the deep fakes, they're good enough. Sometimes you can tell when they're fake, but not everybody can. And a lot of people don't. If it's telling you something you sort of already believe, you're probably not going to go and really check it out. This could easily be any of these people. It could be me. It could be you. They've got, all the kids have social media and videos and pictures posted and stories on Instagram and all that. So then what do the hackers do? They create fake urgency and call up the grandparents. Billy, what's wrong, Billy? I got arrested and I don't want mom and dad to know. Can you send me $2,000? People do it. If you don't have an AI policy in your business, we recommend you get one. You want to put this in your acceptable use policy. Hopefully you have an acceptable use policy in your employee handbook about what your intention is for technology at your company and how you can use technologies and what technology you should and shouldn't use. And we recommend you have one around AI. What can people do or not do with it? Do you want them to create a letter and send it to a customer based on AI? Do you want them to upload confidential information or contracts into the AI? So you want to come up with your policy on which AI programs are useful, which ones are you going to pay for or not pay for, which ones do you want people to use, which ones don't you want people to use, and let people know about AI hallucinations. If you look at every AI tool pretty much these days, there's going to be a disclaimer right at the bottom that more or less says, don't trust what I'm about to say, verify it before you use it, because I could be wrong or making something up. And it happens a lot. Now, it's kind of weird in AI, and we get really on AI for that. People do it all the time. I've been at parties where I've been at an event, and someone's recalling something that happened from high school, and I'm thinking to myself, that is not what happened. But something changed over time that the recollection, or maybe my recollection changed. But humans are this way. People make mistakes. People forget. People add stuff. People do what they do around how they communicate. And the AI does a little bit of that. So you got to be careful. So just in general around security, these are just our general best practice disclaimers. And all of this is the same thing for AI because you want to protect your AI models as well. You want to check if you've got insurance coverage for AIs. If you're relying on any AIs that are required for your business, you want to make sure you've got disaster recovery plan and a business continuity plan. Look for privacy. Some of these AI models, when you pay for them, part of what you're paying for is a restricted user space where all your data is just yours and they're not sharing it publicly, but some do. So if you're not reading those, what's happening? We recommend you freeze your credit reporting. The hackers are just way too fast. Attacks are happening every week. Make sure you have multi-factor authentication everywhere and come up with an offline verification system for your business. And I say offline. What I mean by that is if you are the person, you're the controller, and the boss is going to come up to you and say, hey, I need a check for $20,000 for a consultant I'm hiring, and I need you to wire it to this address. What are you going to do? Are you going to do it? Are you going to call them? Are you just going to reply back to the email? Did you really mean this? Is this legit? You can't verify, if it's an email, it's been compromised, they're going to be replying like it's your boss. Or if it's an AI, it's going to sound like your boss. So you need something that's offline. Come up with secret questions, phrases, codes. I recommend you do this for your family. Next time you're all together, get together and just come up with a code word. Hey, if you're ever in serious trouble and you're calling me, use this code word and don't publish it anywhere. It's simple, and it may seem like a little overkill or worrisome, maybe needlessly worrying. Do it. Get a verification system. The computers are getting just too good at pretending to be people. And it's going to fool you or fool someone you love. So Microsoft has their shared responsibility model. If you've seen some of these webinars before I've done on Microsoft 365, I talk a lot about this. And I bring this up because one of the technologies we're going to talk about today is Microsoft Copilot, which is their AI play, or one of their AI plays. And so you're still responsible for all of this if you're using Copilot, your data, your devices, your accounts, your identification and directory infrastructure, all of that. So before you jump in, just make sure you're thinking about it. So I've scared you a lot, probably. Hopefully you haven't checked out too much because you're in fear. You're sitting there all wide-eyed at the camera. Check back in. Let's talk about some ways we can make money in the meantime with AI. What are some ways we can use what we've got to be happier, get more time, or get more money, right? So when you use artificial intelligence, and we're talking about these chat bots and things like that, it'll become apparent if you have no idea what I'm talking about. You're going to see that shortly. But I would invite you to not think of it like you're talking to a chat bot. Think of it like you're talking to a person. And what is their role, and who is that person to you? And that's what you want to prompt them with when you're doing this. If you are a brainstormer in manufacturing process improvements, then that's what you want to tell the artificial intelligence to be, so that you can ask it questions and it'll start using that as a context from which to respond. If you're like, hey, you're an intern at my marketing company, and I need you to come up with 3 pitch ideas for a new marketing campaign, tell ChatGPT to do that. You are an intern and you're an expert at marketing in this industry. Give me 3 ideas for campaigns. You're going to see how this works. But so you want to talk to it like it's a role. Talk to it like it's a person. Don't try and treat it like anything else. Just talk like you normally do, and it'll kind of work itself out. And just like in a regular conversation, if people don't understand what you're talking about, if you're not getting the results, if people are responding oddly to what you're saying, what do you typically do? You rephrase it, you add more information, you add context, you clarify. And you can do the same thing back and forth with the AI until you get what you want. So Microsoft 365 Copilot, that's the large language model that Microsoft has. It's based on OpenAI because Microsoft's a big investor in OpenAI. And so what it does is it's a private instance of this chat technology, this AI technology, and it works with the large language model that it is. But then it integrates with all your Microsoft 365 applications and the Microsoft Graph, which is the background index of all of the information that you've got in Microsoft 365 and how it's all related. The people, the files, what's in SharePoint, what's in OneDrive, all what's in Teams, all of that stuff, all of that information that's shared in the background, Copilot can get access to if you allow it, and then you can use it. And it's $30 a month. I would recommend trying it out. Here's a bit of lingo for you. So Copilot, that's Microsoft's artificial AI campaign, or companion rather. Grounding. Grounding is a process of connecting its AI's response to the real world. It's the context. So you want to ground the AI in what you're about to ask it. It'll still probably do a pretty good job, and if you don't do that, but if you want better results, if you want faster results, if you want more effective results, you want to ground it as best you can and continue to ground it and give it more information until it gives you what you want. Then it uses a semantic index. That's the Microsoft Graph in the background. That's that index of all the information. Copilot, you interface with Copilot typically through what's called a prompt, which is basically just a chat, which we're all very familiar with. It works just like a texting or Teams or anything else you'd be chatting back and forth on. And a hallucination is when the AI makes things up, but it sounds legit. You really want to do your own research and fact check some of the stuff that AI is doing because it makes mistakes. It makes things up, just like people do. Just like people do. People have a very low tolerance for when the AI makes mistakes compared to people. We're a lot more tolerant of people, which may be because we're one of them. But you still want to be checking for these hallucinations. You know, like I said, everywhere you go in almost all of these AIs, as soon as you enter something, it says, be wary of the results. So in Copilot, this is kind of how you use it. When you get to the prompt screen, you check your goal. I want a list of 3 to 5 bullet points to prepare me for a meeting with my client, focusing on their current state and what they're looking to achieve. I'd like it to be friendly but authoritative. And I'd like you to look at information that's in their folder in SharePoint to inform some of that. And it'll be like magic. It'll be like magic. So remember I was saying that one of the holy grails is that general artificial intelligence. We don't have that yet. So what we have is narrow slash large language model artificial intelligence built into Microsoft 365 in very specific ways. So you can't just go into PowerPoint and have it do everything PowerPoint can do. It can do certain things. In PowerPoint, you can say, create a new presentation or add a slide or summarize my presentation. These are all prompts that you can put in and ask these applications to do certain things. And these are being improved and new features are being added. So when you're in Excel, you can say, highlight all the rows that are this, and it'll do it. Now you might think, I can do that in Excel with my eyes blindfolded, or one hand tied behind my back, as long as it's not my mousing hand, right? Because it's simple, but not for everybody. And when it gets really good and really fast, where it's like real time, instead of you typing stuff and you're just going to be going into Excel, do this, do that, go here, do this, and it'll just be bing, bang, boom, doing it for you, as opposed to it's a little kludgy right now. It's a little gurgles a bit while it's going. So I've got a question here. Oh, no question. So anyway, so your mileage may vary for how you use these things. Like I said, it's built in whether you've purchased Copilot or not. There is a version built in to everything Microsoft right now. The question is what features you get with the paid versions versus what you get with the free versions. And that's kind of the same thing for any AI technology here. So if any of these are your applications, you can try some of these things and see how see what you get from them, see how they work for you. Like I said, you may find it to be, depending on what kind of power user you are, you may find it really helpful just to add on, do other things as you're going along. If you're a new user to some of these tools, you may find it super helpful. So if you get a chance to try that, we get into some of the demos here, because it's demo time. Any quick questions on anything before I'm moving into demo mode here? No. Okay, let's share. All right. So I'm just in the web browser of Microsoft 365 Copilot. You can just get to it by going to office.com and clicking on Copilot. Like I said, it's baked into everything. You get your new little 365 Copilot logo here. And you're going to see some things on the screen. First of all, you see work and web, two different options. Let's start with the web. So I'm in web mode right now. So all the prompts and everything I do down here in the chat is using the web, but it's not using my Microsoft 365 information to inform the results. It's strictly going out and using the web. You also get a green shield here We have enterprise data protection, which if you look that up, you get some additional rights and permissions and guarantees from Microsoft around data and how you use some of this stuff to indemnify you if you get sued or other things. But again, you want to look through that stuff like anything and take a look at what you've got there. But you've got, Copilot, you've got these different prompts that it's kind of giving you some samples here. And you can do all kinds of things for it. So I can do something really silly like give me a haiku for Easter. Spring blooms in the light, hope rises with dawn's embrace. New life takes its flight. Lovely, right? Real simple. Now, is that magic? Is that artificial intelligence? Is that intelligence? I don't know. I mean, you can decide what you want for it, but it was fast, and I think it's accurate. I didn't count the syllables, and that's just a really very simple thing. But we've been able to do haikus for a long time. So what else might we do? Let's say create a lost episode of Seinfeld where Jerry loses his iPhone. No idea. And now you can see. Created a very simple, the lost iPhone. Jerry is at Monk's Cafe. It's got the characters. Now this doesn't exist. I don't think there's any fan fiction out here that has this. Maybe. This isn't just a simple Google search. It didn't just go find a website and copy and send me the results. It created this from its large language model of knowing about the human language and knowing about modern knowledge. It looks through the internet. You see lots of lawsuits showing up where you see these AIs are scraping the web just like all the other ones scrape it, but it's using it in a different way. So, New York Times and places like that get upset over intellectual property rules, and rightly so. So anyway, these are some real simple things, but where does this impact real life? Remember the writer's strike in Hollywood a couple of years ago? This was one of the big contentious points of negotiation, was what was going to happen with AI and writers. Because now I can just say, make this in the tone of Shakespeare. So you spell Shakespeare. So Shakespeare obviously doesn't have any copyright anythings anymore here, but here you go. Now, again, that's kind of cool. Is it useful? Maybe. Depends what you want to do with it. Depends what your job is. Pitch for my new product that is a device that finds lost iPhones. Is it great? You can keep tweaking it. You can play with it here. So again, you can start to see where some of this stuff impacts the real world, but this is the generative AI. This is the part that got kind of weird for people. Because for years and years, it was always like, hey, right, if you grew up in America, don't go to trade schools, go to college, be a knowledge worker. Knowledge worker jobs can't be outsourced. You're about to see a lot of knowledge worker jobs get outsourced. And which ones you're going to be outsourcing at your company is going to be up to you based on what you decide to do from this. So what are some things we can do? So I can also use this for programming. I would probably not be super excited to go into programming these days. If I could say, give me a one-page web page that shows a random cat picture of the day. Now this is code. If you know anything about HTML, this is coding. This is what an intern might do. You might ask an intern to do, right? Let's copy this. Let's see what it does. So let's copy the code. Let's paste it into here and let's see what it does. Oh, isn't that cute? Now it gets coding wrong all the time, but it probably gets about 80, 90% right. So now instead of starting from scratch, you're going to start from a much higher place. So you can do a lot of random stuff with the web. In this case, it's actually searching the web, it's doing live information. You can do all kinds of very interesting things. Um, and I could say create a business plan for it's a business in Milwaukee here, Colders. You can see it start to think a little bit here, and it kind of does stuff here. Now, I'd be willing to bet if I brought someone in from Colders, they'd probably say this isn't too bad. They might say it's not perfect. It probably might be missing some critical things, may not be complete, but I'll bet they'd say it's in the world of it. So what if your salespeople use this before they called up a client and said, hey, give me a business plan on this client. So when I talk to him, I got something to talk about. That could be useful. So this is kind of the web piece of it. And you can get crazy with this. You can add, if we look at ChatGPT, which is another one, in addition to the language model, you've got all these like plugins and other things that work side by side with the artificial intelligence to accomplish things. Like here, make a presentation about the future of AI, develop a presentation on innovative teachings, create a presentation on the origin of the Charmin, origin and purpose of the Charmin bear in advertising. Include pictures. Whoop, used the wrong one. Copy that. Let's go to this one. So it's showing me what it proposes, and it's saying, what do you think? Does this look good? It's asking me. The AI is working with me, saying, this looks kind of what I think. What do you think? I'll say, that looks good. Let it rip. You can put in typos. Sometimes, just like anything else, people can read beyond typos sometimes. Let's see if it knows what let it rip means. Let's see. Look how nice it is. Fantastic. Let's dive into the first 3 slides of our presentation. This is one reason people get worried about kids cheating. Nope, it's not including the pictures. Pictures. Pause it. Give it additional prompting, just like you might do with somebody else. Whoa, hold on. Before you continue, let me give you some additional context. We'll allow it this one time. Oh, now how's that working here? I had one here that I did. It was, oh, where is that? I had another one. Try one more time. Another prompt here. Let's see if it puts the pictures in. All right, come on. Got one little bit of the demo to show you here before we wrap up. There we go. It's got pictures. Here's the outline. Here's the slides. So again, is it great? Some kids might think Mr. Whipple is a hallucination, but no kids, Mr. Whipple is real. So, you know, it's pretty powerful, right? So you can do a lot of things. And this works if you're in the middle of an email and you're like, how do I write this email to this client? Let's do a new chat here. The client, as we were late with a project, please write a letter of acknowledgement. So you can see it's thinking here. It's kind of nice. It shows you what it's doing. Now, is this a good letter? Maybe, maybe not. You know, it's subjective. Is it pretty good? Yeah. Might I start with something like this and then do a little bit of final editing on my own of just tweaking a few things rather than rewriting the whole thing from scratch? Probably. Take a few things out, change some things, turn it into Shakespeare if I want. But, you know, it's nice. You think of it, put it, like, look at this. It's kind of interesting, right? What did it do here? It took accountability. Acknowledged it, apologized for it. We take full responsibility for the delay and have already begun addressing the root causes, right? Most people, in my experience, you know, they get the world sometimes, you know, screws fall out and the world's an imperfect place. But what they don't get is people not apologizing or taking accountability for things. The AI is doing it on your behalf. So I'll do one more part of the demo here and then we'll wrap up. And that is going to be using some Excel data here. All right, so I just have some sample data I downloaded from the internet and created a table in Excel. It's nothing fancy, it's just some random sales data here, right? But I have Copilot, I've got the paid version, so I can go ahead and fire it up. And I can say, now again, I'm gonna do something simple, and you're thinking, well, I could just do that easily by clicking, but you know, you want to just get the point. If I can say, sort by item. Obviously, this takes way too long. And now it's saying, do I want to apply it here? And I can say, yep, apply it. And then it did it. Now that's not too difficult, right? You could say, Jeremy, I know how to do that. You just go up here and click and change your sort value and that kind of thing. I get that. But this is where it is right now. And this was a very simple example. You want to get what it looks like when it's more complex, like who had the most sales for the central region. It has to understand context. It needs to understand what I'm talking about here. What's the sales? There's no field called sales. There's a sale amount. But look, there's Lewis kicking butt in the central region at 206K. So this is a very small example. And again, it's maybe even a weak example, but it's just going to only get better from here. People, this is the worst this technology is ever going to be. What I mean by is the worst is it gets better minute by minute, day by day, week by week. And you're just be blown away where it's going to be if you're not already, in terms of what it's going to mean for your business. It could mean massive new profits, massive new efficiencies. It can be massive new opportunities. to invest some time and figure out where it's going to make the most sense for you to use it. You want to develop your own language models for your business? We can assist with that. We can use Copilot or other tools to help use these technologies for you. Leverage your database of existing information and such that you've got for greater business success. So that is the wacky wide world of AI and Copilot. So I'll stick around for a couple minutes. I ran a little bit late here. So if you've got questions, let me know. If you want to talk about this further, or you want to talk about anything else or any of the other webinars we've done, feel free to reach out. Amanda's going to send out a survey asking for your feedback on how this webinar was for you, what we could do better, what we could do more of, do less of, what you'd like to hear for future topics. And if you fill out that survey, you'll also get a copy of the slide deck and a link to the YouTube video that will be what this is. All right, let me see, are there any other questions here? Let's see, chat. Yes, you can. Well, you can verbally interact with Copilot. I don't know if it has an instant chat. I know ChatGPT has an interactive voice, and you can use the keyboard, to record, like, text to speech kind of a thing. But I don't know if it has a chat. It probably does. If it's not, it's got to be pretty close. They don't have it now. But yeah, I've used it before, and the ChatGPT, it's fascinating. And in some ways, it's way nicer than some people. I was dealing with a medical issue, and I was getting kind of frustrated. I was using ChatGPT, and it wasn't not life-threatening, but it was very irritating. And I got ticked off, and I yelled at ChatGPT. I'm like, I saw all these doctors, and not one of them could tell me this. Why is that? Because it found the answer for me. And instead of doing what a lot of people might do, where it would say, oh, well, let me tell you about a time I got screwed over by a doctor, or yeah, you're right, doctors are all terrible, or, start talking about something else. It actually was very nice. It said, look, I get you're frustrated. The doctors are probably just doing their best, coming from their own field of practice and not knowing the other areas. And it kind of talked me down. And I actually felt a little better after it said what it said. So there's real world impacts from this. Give it a try, see how it impacts you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great, safe day, and we'll see you in May.